The mating ceremony was where the broken went to be claimed or cast out. And as Seren sat alone on the stone bench at the edge of the great hall, she understood which fate awaited her. No wolf had approached her. No wolf would. The mark on her wrist, hidden beneath her sleeve, had already sealed her future before she'd even arrived. They called her the Hollow One, the woman who drained life from those she touched. It wasn't true, but truth had never mattered to her pack. So she sat with her hands folded, her head bowed, waiting for the ceremony to end and her exile to begin. Then the giant Alpha King rose from his throne. Kael of Valdros, 7 feet of muscle and menace, with shoulders broad enough to block out the sun and eyes the color of storm clouds, descended from the dais. The crowd parted like water before him. He walked past noble daughters draped in silk, past warriors' sisters with proud chins and eager eyes, past every woman who had spent months preparing for this moment. And he stopped directly in front of Seren. The hall went silent. His shadow swallowed her completely. Then he spoke, his voice low and rough as crushed gravel. "Stand up, act like you're mine." She didn't understand why. Not until he made his terms clear. He would claim her publicly, protect her, and give her everything she needed. But she would never truly be his, and he would never love her. Neither of them understood how dangerous that promise would become. The Great Hall of Valdros had been transformed for the ceremony. Thousands of candles flickered in iron chandeliers, casting golden light across the vaulted ceiling. Tapestries depicting ancient wolf lineages hung from the walls, their threads gleaming with silver and crimson. The air smelled of pine smoke and anticipation. On the raised platform at the center, unmated women sat arranged in rows according to rank. Daughters of lords in the front, dressed in gowns that cost more than villages. Behind them, the lesser nobility, the merchant daughters, the warrior's kin. And at the very back, on the cold stone benches reserved for those with no status, sat the unwanted. Seren Vale was among them. She kept her eyes fixed on the floor, her hands hidden in her lap. The sleeves of her worn gray dress covered her wrists completely. No one could see the mark beneath. The black spiral branded into her skin, the symbol of a curse she didn't choose. Around her, the other unwanted women whispered nervously. They still had hope. Seren had no such illusions. "Look at her," someone murmured nearby. "The Hollow One. I heard she killed her own betrothed." "Drained the life right out of him," another added. "Found him cold in his bed." Seren's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. She'd learned that defending herself only made things worse. In a few hours, the ceremony would end. No one would claim her, and she would be cast into the wilderness, exiled forever. Perhaps that was mercy. At least in exile, she wouldn't have to see her father's satisfied smile every day. The crowd's murmur suddenly shifted. A ripple of tension moved through the hall like wind through grass. Seren lifted her head just enough to see what had caused it. The Alpha King was rising from his throne. She'd heard stories about Kael of Valdros. They said he stood nearly 7 feet tall, that he'd killed a rival alpha with his bare hands at 16, that he'd united the fractured northern territories through diplomacy and devastating violence. They said he was beautiful in the way a thunderstorm was beautiful, terrible, and indifferent to the destruction it caused. The stories hadn't prepared her for the reality. He was enormous. His shoulders spanned wider than any man she'd ever seen, and black leather armor strained across a chest that could have belonged to a war god. His hair was dark, falling in waves past his jaw. His face was all hard angles, sharp cheekbones, a strong nose, a mouth set in a grim line. But it was his eyes that made her stomach drop. Gray. Pale gray like winter frost, and completely empty. He descended from the dais with slow, deliberate steps, and the crowd scrambled to clear his path. Even the noble daughters shrank back. Why was he moving? The king didn't participate in mating ceremonies. He could have any woman with a single command. She watched him pass the front row without a glance. Then the second. Then the third. He was approaching the back now. The unwanted section. The women around Seren pressed away instinctively. Kale stopped. Directly in front of her. His shadow fell over her like a shroud. Seren couldn't breathe. She stared at his boots because she didn't dare raise her eyes higher. The silence was absolute. Then his voice came, low and rough, pitched for her ears alone. Stand up. Seren's body moved before her mind caught up. She rose on trembling legs. Look at me. Slowly, she lifted her head. His eyes met hers, and she felt the impact like a physical blow. Something sharp and calculating assessed her in a single glance. Your name, he said. Seren. Seren Vielle. Something shifted in his expression. Then he spoke loud enough for the entire hall. I claim this woman as mine. Chaos erupted. But before the shouts could drown his voice, he leaned closer, his breath cold against her ear. Act like you're mine. Smile. Take my hand. And don't ask questions until we're alone. Seren's pulse spiked. Why would the most powerful alpha in the realm choose the most cursed woman in attendance? But his hand was extended, massive and steady, waiting. And behind her, she could feel her father's gaze burning into her back. Seren took the king's hand. The carriage moved through the night in silence. Seren sat rigid on the velvet seat. Across from her, the Alpha King occupied the opposite bench, his massive frame making the spacious carriage feel cramped. He hadn't spoken since they'd left the ceremony hall. Neither had she. Through the window, she watched the landscape change, familiar forests giving way to rockier terrain, trees growing taller and darker. The kingdom of Valdros lay to the north, where winter never fully released its grip. You have questions. His voice made her flinch. Seren turned to find him watching her, pale gray eyes reflecting the moonlight. I have many questions, Your Majesty, she said carefully. Then ask them. Why me? You could have claimed any woman, princesses, noble women. Why choose the one everyone believes is cursed? Kale's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Because I need a mate no one will question. A mate no one will believe I actually want. The words landed like stones in still water. I don't understand, Seren admitted. You don't need to understand. You only need to play the part. He shifted. I have enemies. Powerful ones. They've been pressuring me to mate with women of their choosing. Women who would give them influence over me. If I refuse without taking a mate, they'll see it as weakness. So you chose me, Seren said quietly, because no one would believe you'd willingly mate with the Hollow One. Precisely. She should have been insulted. Instead, she felt relief. He wasn't claiming her because he wanted her. He was using her as a shield. What are your terms? She asked. His brow lifted slightly. We will be mated in name only, he said. You will live in the palace. Attend public functions at my side. In exchange, you'll have rooms of your own, servants, safety, everything you need. And what won't I have? I will never mark you. We will never complete the bond. We will not share a bed, chambers, or confidence. This marriage will be contractual. Nothing more. Each statement landed like a door slamming shut. I understand, Seren said. Kyle studied her. You're not upset. Should I be? Most women would be. Seren looked at her hands. Most women weren't accused of killing their betrothed. Most women didn't spend years waiting to be exiled. She met his gaze. You're offering me safety. That's more than I ever expected to have again. He was silent for several heartbeats. The castle appeared without warning, a massive structure of black stone rising from the mountainside. Towers pierced the sky, and torches burned in windows that glowed like watching eyes. Inside, servants lined the entrance, eyes downcast but curious. They walked in silence through endless corridors until they stopped before a heavy wooden door. "These are your chambers," Kyle said. "Tomorrow, we'll discuss the formal bonding ceremony." Seren nodded. Then she paused. "Your Majesty? Thank you. Whatever your reasons, you've saved my life tonight." He was silent, his expression unreadable. "Don't thank me yet." He was gone before she could ask what he meant. Inside, the chambers were enormous: canopied bed, crackling fire, bookshelves, a private bathing chamber. And standing by the window, silhouetted against moonlight, was a woman Seren had never seen. The woman turned, beautiful, with sharp features and dark hair. Her dress was crimson velvet. "So," she said, her voice silk over steel, "you're the one he chose." "Who are you?" "Lady Morwen, the king's cousin, his closest advisor." Her smile widened coldly. "And someone who's made inquiries about you." Serene's blood turned to ice. "I know exactly what you're hiding beneath those sleeves you guard so carefully," Morwen continued. "The hollow one, the girl who drains life, the girl who killed her betrothed." "I didn't." "It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. What matters is what the king will believe when he learns what's hiding under his roof." She stepped back, smoothing her skirts. "Enjoy your beautiful chambers while you can, because when Kale discovers what you truly are, he won't exile you." Her smile turned venomous. "He'll execute you himself." Then she swept from the room, leaving Seren alone with dying embers and a chest tight with fear. Morning came too quickly. Seren had barely slept, Morwen's words circling her mind. She'd paced until exhaustion claimed her, then jolted awake at every shadow. When dawn crept through the windows, servants arrived with hot water, food she couldn't eat, and a gown of deep blue velvet. "The king requests your presence in the council chamber, my lady." My lady. Yesterday she'd been a curse. Today she was a lady. Tomorrow she might be a corpse. The council chamber was circular, with a vaulted ceiling and a round table at its center. Maps covered the walls. Kyle stood at the far end, dressed in black, studying a document. When she entered, his eyes lifted to hers. "Sit," he said. Two advisors flanked him, studying her with barely concealed skepticism. "The ceremony will take place in 3 days," Kale said. "A formal bonding ritual before the court. We'll speak traditional vows, exchange tokens, and present ourselves as united." "And the marking?" one advisor asked. "Will not occur. We'll cite tradition, delayed consummation. No one will question it." Seren sat silent, watching the discussion unfold around her. They talked about her clothes, the procession, and the feast. Not once did they ask her opinion. She didn't expect them to. "There's another matter," the second advisor said. "Lady Morwen has requested an audience. She claims concerns about the match." Kale's expression didn't change. "Tell Lady Morwen my choice of mate is not subject to her approval. If she has concerns, she may submit them in writing." When the advisors departed, silence filled the chamber. Kale took the chair beside her. This close, she could smell him. Pine and cold stone. "You barely spoke," he observed. "I wasn't asked to speak." "That didn't stop you last night." Despite everything, warmth crept up her cheeks. "Last night we were negotiating. Today I was furniture." A ghost of amusement crossed his features. "You're afraid," he said. "Oh, anyone would be afraid. Most wouldn't admit it. Pretending not to be afraid doesn't make the fear go away. It just makes you slower when danger comes." Kyle went very still, as if she'd said something that mattered. Before either could speak, the door burst open. Lord Aldrich Vale strode in, robes billowing, face twisted with fury. Guards scrambled behind him. "There you are!" Aldrich spat, eyes finding Seren. "Did you think you could hide behind royal skirts?" Seren rose. Father. Don't call me that. He stopped several feet away. You've disgraced our family name. Now you've convinced the king to… Lord Vielle. Kale's voice cut through like a blade. He hadn't risen, but suddenly dominated the room completely. You are in my council chamber. You were not invited. Choose your next words carefully. Aldrich's face paled. Your Majesty, you've been deceived. This woman is dangerous. She's cursed. She killed her betrothed. Yes, I'm aware of the accusation. Seren's breath stopped. Kale knew? Then you know what she is. Aldrich pressed. A hollow one. I'm trying to protect you. By bursting into my chamber and screaming at your daughter? Kale rose slowly, and Seren understood why they called him the Giant Alpha King. I've heard the stories, Lord Vielle. Stories that originated from you. Stories never proven. The boy died. People die. That doesn't make your daughter a murderer. Aldrich sputtered. His eyes darted to Seren, filled with hatred. She has bewitched you. Enough. The word rang like thunder. Kyle stepped forward, and Aldrich stumbled back. Your daughter is now under my protection. She is my queen. An insult to her is an insult to me. His voice dropped. Guards, escort Lord Vale to the gates. As they dragged Aldrich toward the door, his eyes found Seren. This isn't over, he said quietly. When he learns what you really are, he'll be the one to put the blade to your throat. The door slammed. Seren stood frozen, trembling, blinking back the burning in her eyes. You didn't kill that man, Kale said. It wasn't a question. No, she whispered. Then let your father choke on his accusations. His words have no power here. She wanted desperately to believe him. Thank you, she said, for defending me. Kale looked almost uncomfortable. You're my mate, even if only in name. That means something. He paused at the threshold. My cousin, Morwen. She visited your chambers last night. Seren stiffened. She did. What did she say? She welcomed me. In her own way. Kale was silent. Then. Morwen doesn't welcome anyone, she calculates. Whatever she threatened, don't trust her. Don't trust anyone in this castle. He met her eyes. Except, perhaps, me. Then he was gone. Seren sank into the nearest chair. Her father wanted her dead. Morwen wanted her exposed. And the king, her only protection, had just told her to trust no one, except him. 3 days until the ceremony. 3 days to survive. The ceremony day arrived wrapped in frost and silence. Seren stood before the mirror, barely recognizing the woman who stared back. The servants had spent hours preparing her, bathing her in rose-scented water, brushing her hair until it gleamed, painting her lips crimson. The gown was a masterpiece, white silk layered over silver, with crimson threads woven through the bodice. It was the gown of a queen. She checked her sleeves for the 100th time. It's time, a guard's voice called. Seren drew a breath that felt like swallowing glass. The great hall had been transformed, an aisle carpeted in white fur, lined with flickering candles. Hundreds of wolves filled the space, straining to see the mysterious woman their king had chosen. At the far end, before an ancient stone altar, waited Kael. He wore ceremonial black, leather and velvet and silver clasps. He looked like a war god dressed for his own funeral. Their eyes met. Seren began to walk. The whispers started immediately. She's beautiful. I didn't expect that. But look how pale, like something already dead. The hollow one. Why would His Majesty choose such a creature? Halfway down, she saw Morwen among the nobles, dressed in blood red, watching with a smile that promised destruction. Seren's foot caught on her gown. She stumbled. A gasp rippled through the crowd, her arms pinwheeled. A hand caught her elbow. Kale. He'd moved so fast she hadn't seen him cross the distance. Now he stood beside her, grip firm but gentle. "Breathe," he murmured. "I have you." Something in his voice, almost tender, made her chest tighten. She straightened and he offered his arm. They walked the remaining distance together. Did you see how quickly he moved? He caught her before she fell. Perhaps this match isn't as strange as we thought. The officiant raised his hands. We gathered to witness a sacred bond, the joining of two wolves into one pack, one fate. Seren spoke the vows mechanically, voice steady despite the terror beneath. "I claim you as my mate, my king, my alpha. My blood is your blood." When Kale spoke his vows, his voice was low and rough. "I claim you as my mate, my queen, my equal. Your enemies are my enemies." He paused. "Your secrets are my secrets." The officiant produced silver cords, winding them around their joined hands. "Let the marking complete it." The crowd leaned forward. "The marking," Kale announced, "will be delayed. We observe the old tradition. My queen and I will complete it in private when the bond is ready." Murmurs rippled through the hall, but the officiant nodded. Kale raised their bound hands. "I present to you Seren of Valdros, your queen." The applause was hesitant but real, and when Seren looked out at the faces, she saw something unexpected. Some were smiling, the feast afterward blurred, endless courses, forgotten conversations. Through it all, Kale remained at her side. At some point, she realized her hand was resting on his arm. She started to pull away, but his hand covered hers. "Not yet. They're still watching." Later, at her chamber door, Kale paused. "Tomorrow, we begin convincing them this is real." "Isn't it real enough already?" He studied her. "Nothing about this is real, Seren. Remember that." Then he walked away, leaving her with an aching heart that shouldn't exist. The days settled into a strange rhythm. Each morning, Seren woke in luxurious chambers. Each afternoon, she appeared at Kale's side for public functions. Each evening, he escorted her to her door and disappeared. They were strangers playing at intimacy, but something was shifting. It started small, a hand on her back during difficult conversations, his body angling toward hers when others approached aggressively, the way his eyes found hers across crowded rooms. He noticed when she didn't eat, noticed when her smiles grew strained. "You're uncomfortable around Lord Thesson," he observed one evening. Seren blinked. "How did you know?" "You hold your breath when he approaches. Your shoulders rise, your fingers curl inward." "What did he do?" "Nothing. He just looks at me like he's waiting for me to prove the rumors true." Kale's expression darkened. "He won't be invited to future functions." "You can't ban everyone who looks at me strangely." "Then I'll have no court." He said it so simply that Seren laughed before she could stop herself. Kale stared at her. "What?" she asked. "I've never heard you laugh before." Heat crept up her cheeks. "I haven't had reason to laugh. Not for a long time." His gaze softened. Just for a moment. But even as warmth grew between them, Seren sensed something else. Something Kale seemed reluctant to acknowledge. A shadow behind his eyes whenever Morwen's name arose, as if even he wasn't certain what his cousin might uncover. 2 weeks in, Morwen struck. It happened at a formal reception. Seren had grown almost comfortable at these events. She should have been watching Morwen more closely. "Your Majesty," Morwen's voice rang out, "I couldn't help but notice our queen seems warm. Perhaps she'd be more comfortable with shorter sleeves?" The comment seemed innocent. But ice flooded Seren's veins. Morwen approached with a seamstress holding scissors. "Let me help you. Just a small adjustment." Her hand reached for Seren's sleeve. "Don't touch her." Kale's voice cut through the room. He stood beside Seren, having crossed the distance in seconds, his body positioned between her and Morwen. "Cousin," he said dangerously, "you forget yourself. I was only trying to help. The queen's attire is not your concern. If you approach her again without invitation, I'll take it as a challenge to my authority. Morwen's face went white. She curtsied and retreated, eyes flicking to Seren with pure hatred. She knows, Seren whispered, about my mark. She's trying to expose me. I know. Seren's head snapped up. You know what's on my wrist? I know something is there. I won't ask. When you're ready to tell me, you will. Until then, I'll ensure no one forces you to reveal it. Her chest tightened with emotion. Why? This is supposed to be an arrangement. You're supposed to want nothing to do with me? Kale was silent. Then, roughly, perhaps I was wrong about what I wanted. He walked away. That night, everything changed. Seren was preparing for bed when a knock came. She expected a servant. Instead, Kale stood in the corridor. May I come in? She stepped aside. He entered, his massive frame making the chamber feel small. For a moment, he simply stood there, shoulders tight. Tonight, when Morwen approached you, I felt something I haven't felt in a very long time. What? Fear. Fear that someone might hurt you. He turned to face her. I'm not supposed to feel fear. I'm not supposed to feel anything. Seren moved closer. What do you mean? There's something wrong with me. Something I was born with. He looked at his hands. I've never felt warmth. Never felt passion or joy. My emotions are frozen, like winter took root in my chest. It's why I'm cold to the touch. Why I thought I could marry a stranger and feel nothing. But you do feel something, Seren whispered. He stepped toward her. Yes. When I'm near you, the ice cracks. I feel warmth. Want. The desperate need to keep you safe. His hand rose, hesitating near her cheek. I don't understand it. But you're doing something to me that should be impossible. Without thinking, she pressed his hand against her cheek. His skin was cold enough to burn. She didn't pull away. I feel something too, she admitted. Every time you defend me, every time you notice what no one else sees, it's getting harder to pretend. Kale's thumb traced her cheekbone. This is dangerous, he said hoarsely. Whatever this is, it can't lead anywhere good. You feel this. She kissed his cold palm. You feel me. A sound escaped him, between a groan and a growl. Then his mouth descended on hers. The kiss was winter itself. Cold lips, cold breath, shivers racing across her skin. But beneath the cold was something burning. She guided his hands away from her wrists. He didn't question it, respecting her boundaries even now. They undressed each other in firelight, layer by layer. When he laid her on the bed, the contrast was staggering, her warmth against his winter. You're so warm, he whispered against her neck. I've never felt anything like this. Is it too much? It's perfect. You're perfect. Afterward, they lay tangled together. Stay, she whispered. Please. Kyle pressed a kiss to her head. I'm not going anywhere. For the first time, the giant alpha king slept beside another person, his frozen heart beating warmer than ever before. And Seren lay awake, knowing the truth she couldn't escape. She was falling in love with him, and that terrified her more than anything. The weeks that followed were the happiest of Seren's life. Kale came to her chambers every night. Sometimes they made love for hours. Other times they simply talked, sharing pieces of themselves they'd never shared with anyone. He told her about his childhood, raised in a palace that felt like a mausoleum, surrounded by servants who feared him. About his mother, who died giving him life, and his father, who'd blamed him for it. He said I was born wrong, that the cold was punishment for her death. Seren held him tighter. He was wrong. The cold is just part of who you are. You're the only one who's ever believed that. She told him things too, about growing up as her father's shame, about Brennick, her betrothed, who'd seemed kind at first, about waking to screaming, finding Brennick dead, cold and drained, and herself standing over him with no memory. They said I did it. The mark appeared that night, proof of what I was. But I don't remember anything. Kyle listened without judgment. Show me, he said quietly. The mark. Seren hesitated. Despite their intimacy, she'd kept her wrists covered. But she trusted him now. Slowly, she pushed back her sleeve. The mark spiraled across her wrist, black as ink, pulsing faintly. Kale studied it. The hollow mark. The sign of a life drainer. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. Now you know what they say I am. He traced the mark with one cold finger, then lifted her wrist and pressed a gentle kiss directly on the spiral. This mark doesn't define you. Whatever happened that night, this doesn't make you a monster. It makes you a survivor. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She'd waited years for those words. I love you, she breathed. The words escaped before she could stop them. Kale went utterly still. Terror flooded through her. She'd gone too far. Say it again. His voice was strange, almost desperate. I love you, Seren repeated. Something cracked in his expression. The ice in his eyes shattered. I love you too, Seren. You've melted something I thought was frozen forever. He pulled her close, trembling. I love you so much it terrifies me. Joy exploded through her. She laughed and cried, pressing kisses to his face. We'll figure this out, she promised. Whatever your cold or my mark, we'll figure it out together. Yes, together. Always together. He stopped mid-word. His eyes went wide. His hand flew to his chest. Kyle? Seren grabbed his shoulders. What's wrong? He couldn't answer. His face had gone white as death. Frost spread visibly across his skin, cheekbones, jaw, throat. No, he gasped. Not now. His body convulsed. He doubled over, crying out in agony. Kale! Seren screamed. She tried to hold him, but the cold radiating from him was unbearable, burning her skin. He collapsed, hitting the bed, then rolling to the floor. Frost coated his chest, his arms, turning skin to ice. Help! She scrambled for the door. Someone help! The king is dying! She fell beside him, grabbing his hand despite the searing cold. His eyes found hers, filled with agony and despair. I'm sorry, he whispered, voice cracking. Should have told you. Told me what? What? His eyes fluttered closed. Frost sealed over his face. His chest stopped moving. No. No, no, no. Kale. But he didn't respond. The giant Alpha King lay frozen on the floor, and Seren screamed until her voice broke. 3 days passed in nightmare. Kale lay in his chambers, encased in frost that thickened each hour. Healers came and went, shaking their heads. The court whispered that the Hollow One had revealed her true nature. Seren refused to leave his side. She sat beside his frozen form, holding his ice-cold hand despite the pain. On the 3rd day, his eyes opened. Kale! She grabbed his shoulders. You're awake. Listen. His voice was barely a whisper. I don't have much time. The healers can't fix this. It's a curse, an ancient one. Dread pooled in her stomach. What kind of curse? Generations ago, my ancestor bargained with a winter spirit. Power in exchange for sacrifice. He gasped for breath. The price was higher than anyone knew. What price? The kings of Valdros cannot love. If we give our hearts completely, the winter takes us. Our hearts freeze. We die. The words hit like a blow. No, she breathed. I knew the curse existed. I'd never felt anything, so I thought I was immune. I chose you because I thought I could never love someone I didn't truly know. A bitter laugh escaped him. I was wrong. You did love me. And now I'm killing you. No. You gave me life. For the first time, I felt alive. His hand twitched in hers. I don't regret it. What if you stopped loving me? Would the curse reverse? He looked at her with such tenderness. I could never stop. What if I gave you a reason to? Her hands went to her sleeve. What if you saw what I really am? Seren, you've been protecting me, loving me, but you've never seen proof. She exposed the spiral. Look, the hollow mark. Maybe I did kill Brennick. Maybe I am poison. Seren, stop. His grip was suddenly stronger. Do you think a mark changes anything? I fell in love with your soul, your courage, the way you held my hand even when it burned you. His thumb stroked the spiral. How could I not love you more? Her vision blurred. You're supposed to hate me. I could never hate you. The frost crept faster across his chest. It's spreading, he whispered. The curse knows I love you even more now. Stay with me. Stay with me. His eyes closed. Find the spirit, he breathed. The winter spirit that cursed my line. Find it. Break the... His voice trailed off. His chest stopped moving. Kale! He didn't respond. She didn't know how long she sat there before the door opened. Your Majesty. The elderly steward, Kalum. There's a woman here. She says she knows about the curse. Hope and fury warred in her chest. Bring her. The woman was ancient, white-haired, with pale blue eyes that saw beyond the physical world. You're the queen who melted his heart, she said. Can you break the curse? The witch circled Kale's frozen form. It's old and deep. Breaking it requires power beyond anything I possess. Then why are you here? Because you have that power. Seren stared. What? Show me your mark. She pushed back her sleeve. The witch studied it, then began to laugh. You foolish, magnificent child. Do you know what you carry? This isn't a hollow mark, it's a kindling mark, the sign of a life giver. Seren felt the ground shift beneath her feet. What? Kindling wolves generate life. They carry so much vital energy it radiates from their skin. But Brennick died. Was he? Or was that what you were told? Memory crashed over her, waking disoriented, being dragged to his chamber, seeing his frozen body, the accusations, the brand. Before she could understand, she'd never seen the moment of death. Someone else killed him, she whispered, then branded me with a false mark. Yes. The witch's voice was grim. And I think you know who? Her father. He has the power. Seren said slowly. He's the actual hollow. When Brennick threatened to expose him, he eliminated the threat and blamed you. Rage ignited, so hot it should have melted Kale's ice. How do I save him? The curse is winter. You are warmth. Pour your power into him. Melt the ice around his heart. The witch paused. But it may consume you entirely. Seren looked at Kyle, the man who'd chosen her, protected her, and loved her. Show me how. The ritual was simple in theory. Seren knelt beside Kale's frozen body, hands pressed against his ice-covered chest. Feel the warmth inside you, the witch instructed. Push it outward, as much as you can give. She closed her eyes. At first, nothing, just terrible cold seeping into her palms. Then something flickered. Deep in her chest, a spark of heat. Small at first, but as she focused, it grew, warmer, brighter. The mark on her wrist began to glow, not black now, but gold. Brilliant, blazing gold. Power surged through her, flowing into Kyle. The ice began to crack, tiny fractures spreading across his chest, chunks falling away. But the cold fought back, regenerating. More, the witch urged. You're holding back. Some part of you still believes you're a monster. Seren gritted her teeth. Images flashed. Her father's hatred. The brand burning into her wrist. Years believing she was cursed. All lies. She wasn't a hollow. She was a kindling. The spark erupted into an inferno. Golden light exploded from her hands, burning away frost, ice, the curse itself. She heard herself screaming as wave after wave of heat poured out. The last ice shattered. Kale's chest heaved, his eyes flew open, warm brown, not gray. Alive. Seren, he gasped. She collapsed against him, utterly drained. You're alive, she sobbed. You're alive. His arms wrapped around her and he was warm. For the first time, warm. You saved me. Burned away the curse, not just from me, the entire bloodline. I can feel it. The witch nodded. The kindling's fire severed the original bargain. Your children will never suffer as you have. Kale pressed his face into Seren's hair. I can feel everything, he whispered. Joy, grief, love, so much love. He pulled back. I love you, Seren. I love you too. Always. 3 days later, they rode to the Vial estate. Lord Aldrich was not expecting them. His face drained of color as the Alpha King and his queen entered, flanked by guards. What is the meaning of this? Lord Aldrich Vale, Kale said. You stand accused of murder, conspiracy, and false imprisonment of your own daughter. Aldrich's goblet clattered to the floor. This is absurd. We have testimony from a spirit speaker, Seren interrupted. We know about the kindling mark. We know you branded me with a false hollow symbol. We know you killed Brennick when he discovered what you really are. Lies. You're a murderer. A new voice. Morwen stood in the doorway. Cousin? Kale said. Morwen approached. I investigated the queen, certain she was dangerous, but I found inconsistencies. Witnesses who saw Lord Vale near Brennick's chambers. Servants who noticed his strange exhaustion afterward. The sign of a hollow recovering from a drain. Aldrich backed away. Morwen faced Seren. I was wrong about you, Your Majesty. You saved the king. Saved the bloodline. She bowed. I hope you can forgive me. Seren studied the woman who'd threatened her, then nodded. You were protecting your family. I understand that. Lord Aldrich Vile, Kyle said. You are sentenced to death for murder and crimes against your daughter. Any final words? Aldrich lunged toward Seren. Guards caught him instantly. You ruined everything, he screamed. You were supposed to die in exile. My mother was innocent, Seren said quietly. She only loved you, a love you never deserved. Something passed through Aldrich's eyes, guilt perhaps, then vanished. Take him away, Kale commanded. The execution took place at dawn. Seren didn't watch. Instead, she stood in Valdros's gardens, watching the sun rise, feeling Kale's warm arm around her. It's over, he murmured. Yes. She leaned into him. What happens now? We live, rule together, rebuild what was broken. His hand settled on her stomach. Perhaps raise a family. Children who'll never know the curse. Her eyes grew moist. I'd like that. And perhaps we finally complete the bond properly. He tilted his head, exposing his throat. I want everyone to see I belong to you. I'll have you. Forever. He smiled, full of warmth and joy. Forever exists. I'm certain now. Then he kissed her as the sun flooded the world with golden light. 1 year later. The nursery was warm, filled with morning sunlight and a baby cooing. Seren lifted her daughter from the cradle. Thalia, named for the goddess of warmth, had her father's dark hair and her mother's copper eyes, and on her wrist, a faint golden mark, the kindling symbol. She's beautiful. Kyle appeared in the doorway, like her mother. She has your stubbornness, refused to sleep until I sang 3 times. 4 times tomorrow. He crossed the room, wrapping his arms around them both. My girls. Seren leaned against his chest. Are you happy? Happier than I knew was possible. I spent my life frozen, Then you walked into that ceremony hall, alone and brave, and everything changed. We saved each other. Yes. He kissed her neck, right over his mark. We saved each other. Outside, the gardens bloomed with impossible flowers, nurtured by a queen whose touch brought life. The kingdom prospered. The curse was memory. And across the realm, people told stories of the hollow one who wasn't hollow, the queen who'd melted the frozen king's heart and freed an entire bloodline from winter. Seren smiled, holding her daughter, her husband's arms around them both. She'd spent so long believing she was cursed. Now she understood the truth. She'd never been cursed. She'd always been the cure.